Welcome back to Healthy Living. Like we said at the beginning of the show, November is National Hospice and Palliative Care Month. And so I brought some members of our team from both of those service lines to talk to us today about the services we offer at St. Tammany Health System. So my next guest is Stephany Atwood.
Hi.
Welcome, Stephany.
Thank you.
You're welcome. She is a licensed master social worker and our bereavement coordinator with our hospice team. So first, before we start, just tell us a little bit about you and what you do for St. Tammany Health System.
Absolutely. My name is Stephany Atwood. Like you said, I am a social worker, but I serve as the bereavement coordinator for our hospice program. So with that role, I follow our families for up to 13 months following the death of their loved one.
Oh, wow.
And offer many services that help them through that process.
That's amazing. I had no idea that we had such a close relationship for such a long time.
Yes, absolutely.
With our patients. So I want to ask you, hospice care, it's a very specialized care. You know, it's a special, you have to have a special heart to do that. And thank you for doing what you do. How does hospice care address all of the needs of the families when it is time for someone to enter hospice? There's a lot of, you know, I mean, I myself, I have a large family. So you can imagine all the emotions and the thoughts and the opinions. So what is kind of your role? How do you address the needs of the family and the caregiver and the patient?
And I think you just nailed it right there. It's not, it involves the whole family system. It's the patient and the family. You know, we have that interdisciplinary team that includes our nurses who are meeting with the patient and making sure all of their physical symptoms are managed, as well as our aides. But you have the social workers who are there, who are able to go in and assess for the emotional needs and the anticipatory grief and all of the psychosocial needs, the family dynamic issues. We look at all of that in order to make sure that everyone is as prepared as they can be as we enter or look at this end of life process.
Yeah, because I guess when you do enter hospice, you know that you are at the end of your life, and while you know that, the reality is far different from what your anticipation is.
Absolutely.
So I guess that's your job to kind of manage that expectation.
We help the families continue that process, and the patient as well. Sometimes patients are in denial as well as far as what their disease process is and what the decline may look like. I mean, we're there to continue to support and educate as well. So we talked about kind of the overall family dynamic and how you're part of that. How do you, when through that 13-month process, why the 13-month follow-up? I know it's logically, it's a simple answer, but just kind of explain it in your words. For the bereavement program for 13 months, grief is a lifelong journey. Really, 13 months in the scheme of things is not really long enough if you think about it.
Right.
Within those first few months, you're still just processing everything that's happened, from a diagnosis of a terminal illness to the decision to enter hospice care, and as a caregiver, watching your family member decline and ultimately pass. It's a lot to process. So in that 13 months, we're there to do individual grief sessions if needed.
Right.
We have grief support groups as well.
Oh, wow.
Caregiver support groups as well too, for those caregivers who are involved at that moment in the caregiving of their loved ones. But you need the 13 months. I mean, we don't know. 1 month versus 6 months looks totally different. Yeah.
So how would someone, if they wanted to participate in a grief support group, what would be the process?
All they need to do is call me. They can reach me at 985-871-5746, and I can give them the information on the grief support groups. We have 2 in Covington and 1 in the Slidell area as well.
Okay. So we talk about how, grief is, it's just a journey. It's like the next part of the journey in your life. So how do you, I guess, how do you walk people through that?
I think the most important thing with grief is to allow people to talk about their person. The more that we can talk about them, the more the connection that we hold with them. It's important. It's part of who they are.
Yeah.
So giving them that space to do that is important, and also stressing to them that it's unique. Their grief is not going to look like anybody else's.
Exactly. It's personal.
It's very personal. It's really like a fingerprint. You're never going to find anybody else's grief that looks like yours.
Yeah. So I would imagine that through your work, you really do get close to the families that you work with. Yeah. And so, what does that mean for you, like as a caregiver?
I look at that as the biggest blessing and gift that I can I'm meeting people in their most intimate, crisis-filled moments.
Right.
And I'm being blessed by being able to be there to help them through their journey. They're blessing me.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, so why did you choose this line of work?
You know, from having had loss and personally, and not really knowing what grief was supposed to look like, and then going through it, I wanted to be able to be there to support others as they found their way through it. It is, it can be a very lonely feeling.
Right.
And to know that somebody really truly cares, it helps. I mean, people need that.
So if you were talking to, I know there's no, like you said, and I agree with you, that grief is like a fingerprint. Everyone's journey is different. But what would you say to someone who is about to enter that journey of hospice, either the patient or the caregiver or both? What would you say to them as far as what they need to remember, like during that process? Who do they need to call upon for their strength?
Depends on their spirituality, you know, their faith. I always tell our families in those moments leading up to one's passing, leave no words left unsaid, no regrets. Make sure you say everything that you need to say. We can educate families on what is happening, and our heads may know what's happening,
right?
But our hearts are never prepared for when that moment actually happens.
Yeah.
And I think I stress that a lot because I don't want them to feel like something's wrong with them or they're going crazy by saying, "I knew this was happening. How come I can't accept this right now?"
Right, because that's kind of normal part of the process.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, you know, like you said, it's one thing to know it, but it's another thing to go through it.
Actually go through it. Grief is messy.
It is messy. So we do a lovely event in hospice. It's been a tradition for your team for many, many years. It's the Angels of Light Tree of Light lighting ceremony, and it's every December. Yes. So it's coming up. I think the date is December 5th, correct?
December 5th, yes.
And that happens in our hospital lobby. It happens in the evening, 5:30 p.m. And I went to my first one last year. I had a few angels on the tree.
It's powerful, isn't it?
It is very powerful. So can you kind of explain that tradition and what happens there?
I think you explained it beautifully. It's an annual tradition. It's a way for the hospital to bring in the holiday season. But it's also a way for those who have lost somebody or for those who want to honor somebody to be able to purchase an ornament or a donation for an ornament, $15. That ornament will hang on the tree. Every ornament on that tree, we will be reading those names. So it is a very, very powerful moment for those who have lost someone to be able to have that connection again, to hear their person's name. Yeah. Light refreshments, beautiful music. It is really, it's my most favorite event that St. Tammany holds.
It is beautiful. And you do get to grab your ornament after, you know, once it hangs on the tree through the holiday season, you can take that ornament home and hang it on your own tree for years to come.
The ornaments will hang on the tree and the whole month of December. They'll be available for pickup starting on January 15th.
Yeah, so I guess you can go to the St. Tammany Health Foundation website, and that's where you would purchase, correct? And how, that's a nice kind of coordinated effort between the foundation and hospice.
Oh, it's beautiful. The money raised from that goes to the Foundation for Hospice Services.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to add before I wrap up with you?
Just, you know, to the continued bereavement support, I just want people to know that you're not alone through this process. Losing a loved one it's life-changing. Your world is forever changed. So I don't want anybody to ever feel like they're alone through that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for staying with us, and we are going to be right back.